Good morning, guys. Well, we are back again. Wargaming has brought back the multi-tier loot boxes. And when I found out about this news, I actually was like, I don't even mind, I don't really care. I felt nothing. I kinda knew this was coming, even though I didn't, because I was removed from the CC program back in 2025 September. And I didn't really feel anything, to be honest. I was like, kind of low-key expecting that, because as all these super tested tanks and all these new tanks get released on tanks.gg and on other different websites with all these special mechanics like rocket boosters, double guns, and when you have like all of these tanks like being tested in random battles for a long periods of time, you can kind of, put together the picture and put together the little nods, right? I didn't even want to make this video, to be honest, but a lot of people were asking my opinion about this whole fiasco. The Lootbox Drama, as we call it. Honestly, last year I have called out on this practice among many other content creators in the World of Tanks space. Well, it didn't really matter, right? It didn't really do anything. Now, if you're not familiar with this round felt system, as we call it, or the multi-tier loot boxes system, as we call it, it is basically very simple. You have tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 loot boxes, right? You can buy the tier 1 loot boxes, which will drop a set amount of items, right? You can get premium tanks, you can get crew books, but most importantly, tier 2 loot boxes. And from the tier 2 loot boxes, you can get the same thing, some free XP, some crew members, blah blah blah, whatnot. And then from the tier 2 loot boxes you can get tier 3 loot boxes. But the tier 2 loot boxes has a different set of tanks as a tier 1 and a tier 3 loot boxes. And the tier 3 loot boxes has also a different set of tanks as a tier 1 or tier 2 loot boxes. So in essence, if you would like to unlock a tank that is only available in the tier 3 loot boxes, you're going to have to buy a lot of the tier 1s to basically guarantee you that tank. The chances of these tanks are very low, of course, dropping, but there is a pity mechanic. So every 50 rolls, you will be guaranteed a premium tank. Yesterday I actually was streaming and I got a couple of loot boxes gifted from the community. Thank you again, Bobidu and Marci. And unfortunately I had no other choice but to open them on stream, and I actually got quite lucky, but I've seen many streamers who got really unlucky with their openings. Like some guy opened 500 boxes, he literally didn't even get anything of value or what he wanted. And this is the kind of system that is designed to be really predatory and make you really dig into your wallet to squeeze out every single penny in order for you to get that desired premium tank or tank that you really want to get. So yeah, well, how do I feel about this? To be honest, this was, as I said, very expected. I think it was obvious that last year was like a big test. Although I have to say I am very disappointed, because they could have honestly come up with some new, really fresh mechanic or some fresh tanks, because there's a lot of recycled content in these loot boxes. There's a lot of tanks that were already available before. I think there's like 4 or 5 new tanks in the loot boxes that are actually like brand new, and the rest of them we already saw like in previous loot boxes, in previous events and whatnot. You do get, I believe, 10 free boxes, so that's nice, but I would definitely recommend you not to spend your money. If you have a select tank in mind that you want to get, you are going to have to rely on pure luck to be able to get it without spending a huge amount of money, in case you do not have access to these tanks that have already been recycled from previous events. You're gonna have to really dig into your pocket and really squeeze that wallet in order for you to get those. If you get lucky, then no. But if you don't get lucky, well, it's RNG, right? Well, another thing is that it's really interesting if you look at World of Tanks' like evolution of monetization. Basically, World of Tanks started from selling premium tanks, I think you had 3 bundles back in the day. The basic bundle contained like the regular tank, then you had the bundle with the gold and credits, and then you had some bigger bundle with some premium days and whatnot. And back in the day, it was really just like 3 things, right? You had gold, you had these premium tanks, which were 95% of the time actually way worse than the tech tree counterparts. Think of IS-3, IS-6, 5100 FC and 50T. Maybe the Type 59 was the only exception to this rule, but most of them, 95% of them, were actually worse than the tech tree counterparts. And I think that was a really good model. Needless to say, we've left that model a very long time ago, starting with the Chrysler GF when it came out. The Surf-Wash incident, as many would remember it. Then we had tanks like the Defender, which now, if you think about it, the Defender in 2026 is super tame compared to what we have right now in the game. We had the Scorpion G, we had the Progetto, then we started having like the BZ176, 2016, 2017, the Christmas loot boxes first started appearing. From what I remember, players generally accepted them because they brought like a new thing into the game that was, you know, constructed around the festive atmosphere of Christmas and New Year's. And they also gave you guaranteed gold. So every single box gave you guaranteed gold. And also, you know, they had the pity mechanics. So for every 50th boxes that you opened, you would 100% get a tank from the list of tanks that were available in those boxes. It was widely accepted, and it's still widely accepted, that those boxes are the best value if you want to stack up on your gold reserves and if you want to stack up on your premium tanks, right? But these tiered loot boxes are just... man, they're just like next level, you know? Like, you gotta buy the tier 1 to get a tier 2. Then, if you want the tier 3, you need to get one from the tier 2. And then, you know, it's just like, it's really messing with your mind as well, because you can't really do the calculations. Like, you, of course, sure, you can do an Excel sheet and whatnot, but it's going to be so many variables and so many ways that things can go wrong and things will go against you, because, well, it's casino, right? In casino, always the bank wins, right? It really is a way where you're just gonna lose a lot of money. And I feel like the model of this game is just headed to milk as much amount of money as possible from the whales. Really leave like the player that pays maybe like 10 to 20 to 30 euros a month out of this system, and basically not really guaranteeing him access to this exclusive content like the Schwertwald, for example, the Bzig, you know, the two tier 10 new heavy tanks. They are obviously like catered and made around the players that love to play the 60 TP, the E100 with the big gun, because they have the same mechanic, but they just, you know, they squeezed all these mechanics into these tanks, like the rocket boosters, the high alpha damage, the good frontal armor, good Halden ability, heavy tank, slow, you know, high alpha, this kind of gameplay. It feels like the game's like financial model is headed into this direction. Well, it's not headed, we are already in this direction. Another thing that's also interesting to talk about is that Wargaming is ready to like let go of some of their PR in essence for a substantial amount of money, which is the round-fought or the multi-tier loot boxes mechanic. I mean, last year was a show. They knew it was gonna be a show. Everybody knew that. Ayuxi was removed from the CC program for being an outspoken critic of these loot boxes. I was also very critical. I was removed shortly after from the CC program. They are literally like willing to sacrifice their PR in order to like pave way for this mechanic and pave way for this for these loot boxes in order for them to actually monetize and make a lot of money. Is it because World of Tanks Heat is around the corner and they are afraid that it's going to fail? Who knows? I remember what happened to Steel Hunters. I already made a couple of comments about that in one of those videos where I talked about the state of the game. Oh yeah, talking about the state of the game actually. Well, here are some good news. I think Wargaming is actually doing a good job right now based on reworking tanks and making them better and better and better. The question is, however, why are they reworking tanks and making them better? Those tanks which do not need any adjusting, like Contriver was buffed, for example. Why? 50B was buffed. Why? Imbattable was buffed. Why? I always wanted Wargaming to like keep buffing and nerfing tanks from patch to patch, because I think that really grunts and makes the meta shift around a little bit more, and thus makes the gameplay, the end gameplay, more interesting for us veteran players. So I think that's a good thing that they're doing it, but you know, we have tanks like the Object 705A, we have tanks like the PZ7, we have tanks like the T62A, we have tanks like the Rinoceronte, and none of these tanks are really getting any updates, even though obviously they know that they are really just dog and basically unplayable in the current meta of having infinite amounts of penetration and armor, alpha damage and whatnot, especially with tier 11. Like, imagine you're playing a PZ7. What can you actually do against tier 11 tanks? You face a Taschenratte, you can't even hit him, you can't even pen him. You face a T803, he's gonna basically just, you peek around the corner, bam, you're dead, basically, like, because they have too much penetration. So yeah, I was talking about the good things in World of Tanks, right? Okay, so they're updating the meta a little bit more often, okay? You know, the tanks that they are buffing is kind of questionable, but that's fine, whatever. It's still better than what they were doing before, so I'm actually happy about that aspect. Now, what I'm unhappy about is that the maps that are getting reworked into absolute hellholes, man. Guys, have you played the new Erlenberg? Have you guys played Serene Coast? I mean, what the hell is Serene Coast, man? They put a gigantic mountain in the middle. They completely killed the heavy side, and they made the 1-2 line into like this super messy position where you have no idea what's going to happen. And let me tell you, man, on this map, if you want to do any kinds of damage or anything that is like useful for your team, you have to go to the middle. It's ridiculous. But all in all, I'm actually, you know, quite happy to play the game recently. I don't know why. Maybe because I'm playing like the Object 260 and the BlackRock missions, and they give me like a sense of like progress, you know. After making a new account, it's really satisfying to unlock these new tanks. And speaking about new campaign missions again, Wargaming, how hard is it to come up with a new campaign mission like every like 3, 4, 5, 6 months, you know? Just make one tank, make a mission chain around it, like Lesta did with the Moise König. They either make it really easy, they give you like a tank that is not that good, but then they could also make it like a little bit harder, and then they could give you a really good tank. But I already feel like the BlackRock missions and the Dravets missions are outdated, and they've only been released for like what, not even a year, right? A lot of people already have them, and you know, we are looking forward to more content that we can grind. And how hard would it be to like put one of these tanks that are getting tested into this reward of this end chain? Speaking about new mechanics, let me quickly show you Tyr, the sponsor of this video. Tyr is an upcoming MMO tank shooter that's built around tactical team battles and big armored vehicles. In Tyr, you can play tanks in team battles, and each has its own armor profile, which means if you angle correctly, you can bounce incoming shots like a boss and dominate. And if you angle incorrectly, well, congratulations, you've just invented ventilation. But Tyr isn't just about armor. Each tank has its own tech tree, upgrades, ammo choices and components, so you can build your vehicle around how you actually like to play. Want to be a stealthy scout? A frontline bunker? You can build for all of that. And once you max out a tank, you unlock Keystone Tech, which can completely change how the tank works in battle. So your favorite vehicle doesn't just get stronger, it can also get weirder. There's also asymmetric vision, which basically means if you position well, you can see and spot enemies for your team while they literally can't see you back. It's like hide and seek, but with 60 tons of armor. And since Tyr has some sci-fi elements, the devs get to do things normal tank games can't. For example, there's a tank that literally turns into a jet, because apparently driving wasn't chaotic enough. The game is free to play and is designed for competitive play with no pay to win vehicles, ammo or consumables, so everyone starts matches on an even playing field. Tyr will enter early access this summer. If you want to check it out, you can wishlist Tyr on Steam using the link in the description and follow development as the game gets closer to release. Thank you Tyr for sponsoring this video, and let's get back into it. Also, since I mentioned Lesta, a viewer of me has sent me 2 replays about Lesta. I'm usually not checking out content on that server. So if you don't know what Lesta is, it's the CIS version of World of Tanks. After the split happened between Wargaming and Lesta, they made their own World of Tanks. And basically on that server, you have a wide array of different content. I believe they truly show the mechanical length of how this game can advance and how it can go. They have flamethrower tanks, they have rocket like ATGM tanks, they have a new form of armored artillery, which is pretty ridiculous if you think about it, but it's still like new content, which is very different from the double-barreled auto gun and rocket booster mechanics that this trio of mechanics that we see in World of Tanks. And what I really appreciate about Lesta is that it feels like they really love their game, and they make the game for the players. Every single time I watched content about it, like in the form of a replay, I see maps that are like huge maps with different possibilities, different flanking maneuvers, different positions to go to, many different variables. Some of the older maps were put back, like Stalingrad, into the game. It feels like they really care about the player experience. I'm not sure if they care more than Wargaming, because I have not played the game, so I cannot say for sure. If you guys have played on that server, please let me know in the comments what you think, because I think it's an interesting topic, an interesting aspect of this whole thing. But I would really love to see good maps for gaming, good maps. Klondike was put into the game, but Klondike was a map that was already present in Grand Battles, and then Onslaught, and then Random Battles. Now, well, how is Klondike? You know, Klondike is actually alright. I think it's not that bad. But the map reworks are just fatal. Like, the map reworks are just so bad, in my opinion. There have been a couple of numerous maps that got reworked over the course of the last few years. And the only map I can actually name is Fjords. Fjords became a little bit more interesting to play. It now has like an essence of late game, a little bit more fun mid game, because that map was literally about early game and late game, and there was not really a mid game on that map. But now there's a mid game as well. So a lot of people hate that map, but I think it's actually one of the most successful projects that they have presented us thus far. It would be nice to have more maps, more reworked maps. I think we as a community we have to let go of the monetization question of this game. If you don't want the loot boxes, don't buy them. I will not buy a single loot box, not a single one in my remainder of my years. I don't buy premium things, I don't buy anything, but I'm also in an easier position because the community is supporting me through gifting me stuff. But even if they wouldn't, I wouldn't mind, honestly, I wouldn't mind. You know, after losing my CC account, after losing my CC access to information, I really didn't mind. Like, I don't have access to these new tanks, I cannot make tank reviews before they get released, I cannot show you guys the tanks, I cannot make new tank based content, right? I feel like I've done my job as a CC of connecting the community with Wargaming and voicing your guys' concerns with them and creating this bridge of communication that you guys are unhappy, including me. And I was always talking about things that could be improved and always giving them and presenting them in a constructive way, in a constructive manner, giving them constructive feedback about what things they can improve and what not. I feel like this lootbox multi-tiered events is not really my fight anymore, because what can we do? Like, nothing. Wargaming does as Wargaming wants. They are a company after all. They are here to make money. Let's not forget that, guys. They are here to make money, and I'm not defending them. If this is the way that they see fit to make money, to make their money, then so be it. But I think we still want those things that the community really yearns for, you know? New maps, new mechanics, constant update of tanks, buffs, nerfs, and good map reworks. I think I am not the only one when I say that. It would be nice to get a little bit of more love, a little bit more love from Wargaming as players. And I have to name one good thing, that one positive thing. The extra crew skills are actually quite nice. I now have more options to select and more options to think about whether I want to use those crew skills or not. So I think the crew system now is pretty much perfect, has ever been. It's the best right now in its best form. I also like the fact that now you can retrain your crews and reset the crew skills for credits, which is also great. Much better than before for 200 gold. I think that's also a great addition. But what I'm missing from the game is that, what I said, in my opinion and from the content I've watched, Leicester loves their players more. The game is made more, make the players happy. And I think if we accept Wargaming's aggressive monetization, but at the same time we get a game that is made to make the players happy, bring in new mechanics like rockets, flamethrower tanks, you know, like funny mechanics that really get you going. Like the, you know, the FPTD is a really toxic tank, but it's still a funny mechanic, right? People play it. You know, autoloaders are a toxic mechanic. For example, the MBTB, the one in the new loot box, is a funny mechanic, but people still play because it's fun, right? We need more of these things, you know. They have really gone over too much with double barrels, rocket boosters, auto gun tanks. It's a little bit too much, and I think we need something more, like a breath of fresh air in the room. Back in the day, guys. Oh yeah, perfect, look. 3 of my favorite childhood games. Battle for Middle-earth 2, absolute go-to game. You guys probably remember this. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. Heroes of Might and Magic 3. You know, all these games, you would buy them once. They would sell a DVD, you would buy it for like 20-30 euro. You would have the game, you can play single player, you can play multiplayer. These games, they were really made with love. And I mean, I could name another 10,000 games that we probably played, like Warcraft 3, Age of Empires, Need for Speed, the old ones, you know, Underground 2, Most Wanted, Carbon, you know, most of those 4. What I'm saying is that back in the day, games were made with love. And I really feel like this would be an absolute amazing moment in time right now for gaming if it would bring this back a little bit more and up the amount of mechanics that we get into the game. Look at Leicester again. Rockets would be amazing, you know, it would be so funny. I think right now the fun factor of random battles is kind of stale, right? You need to like up it a little bit more. And I think it would be a great way to have longer battles. Now, what do we need for longer battles? Well, we need a little bit more maps, right? A little bit more bigger maps with more positions and more variety of gameplay. So if we combine this monetization, this aggressive monetization, with making the game more fun, then I think we can meet in the halfway and make both parties happy. Well, that's what I think. And honestly, that's what makes this whole thing so frustrating to watch. Because underneath all the monetization, all the layered loot boxes, all the engagement system designed to push people into spending more and more money, there's still a genuinely good game here. The crew changes are good, as I mentioned, the more frequent tank balancing is also great, and some of the recent updates show that Wargaming actually can modernize World of Tanks when they want to. but at the same time, we're still stuck playing on reworked maps that feel super bad and way worse than the originals, and we're still missing the kind of bold gameplay ideas that could actually make the game feel fresh again. Imagine if mechanics like flamethrowers, rocket launchers, dynamic objectives or truly new map designs got the same level of attention as monetization systems. Because believe it or not, people are actually going to spend a lot of money on a game they actually love playing, but they hate being manipulated at the same time. And that's the difference. World of Tanks doesn't need 10 layers of loot boxes to survive, it needs confidence in its own gameplay again with fresh ideas. And I'm 100% sure if Wargaming would just be aiming to make the players more happy and would invest as much resources into doing so as their monetization, we would definitely have more spending customers and a generally more happy player base. But if Wargaming keeps prioritizing short-term monetization over long-term innovation, eventually even loyal players will stop getting excited, as we have seen it many times before, and start feeling exhausted instead. And honestly, it would be nice to see this game take risks with gameplay, like Lesta did, than take risks with how far they can push monetization before the community finally snaps. Hope you enjoyed the video, thank you for watching.